Hey guys, this is Heather from healthyeatingstartshere.com. So today I wanted to talk about some food, specifically whole foods. I get a lot of questions from you guys because I talk about whole foods a lot. Sometimes people ask me, what are whole foods? So I thought I would take this opportunity to go over what exactly whole foods are. Now some of you may know this already, but for those of you who don't, the main whole foods that I'm thinking of are fruits and vegetables because they should make up the bulk of your diet. So vegetables, things like red pepper, green beans, lettuce. This is, by the way, a very awesome greens grower that lives down the road from us here in the country. They do all of their greens indoors in greenhouses throughout the winter, so we can always go there and get fresh greens. It's awesome. And of course sprouts. You know, I love to grow sprouts at home on the windowsill, so those are another form of whole food vegetables. And then fruit as well, whole fruits, oranges, apples, pears. You can make them into smoothies, and that's still a whole food. It's processed because it's going in the blender, so it's changing the texture of the fruit, but it's still maintaining all of the fruit. When you juice, that's no longer a whole food because you're taking away the fiber. Same thing with vegetables. If you juice carrots, you're taking away the fiber of the carrot, so it's not technically whole food. It can still be healthy if you're looking to boost your nutrient levels. It's just that you're removing part of the food, so that's when it becomes not a whole food anymore. Okay, moving on to grains, which I think is where a lot of the question comes up, because you'll see cereals, crackers, things like that, and on the box it'll say whole grains. So what does that mean? That means that part of the flour is made from whole grain flour, but it doesn't necessarily mean everything in there is whole grain. It just means that part of it is. So if you look at the ingredients on those cereal boxes, you'll probably see white flour listed first. It might say unbleached, that's still white flour. And then it might say whole grain flour like whole wheat or spelt or barley or whatever. So check the ingredients and see what's going on in there. But really, when I'm talking about whole foods, I'm talking about the whole grain. So like if you're thinking about rice, it's the actual whole grain of rice. Quinoa, oats, all the same stuff. You want to look for, as much as possible, getting your grains from the whole grain. And rolled oats are whole grain as well. They're just where they take the oat grain and they flatten it out into a flake. But those are still whole. It's just when you get into oat flour, where sometimes they take part of the fiber away. So that's different. And white rice, they've taken the rice grain and they've polished it. So they take off the bran from the rice, and that's not cool. That means that you're missing out on a lot of the fiber when you're eating the rice. So always go for brown rice. There are other colors though. There's black rice, there's red rice. You can find all different kinds of colors, but make sure that it's the whole grain of rice. Okay, so that's another category of whole foods. And then we get to beans and legumes. So those are whole foods as well. Those are things like chickpeas, these are lentils, these are just some green lentils, you can get all different colors. Kidney beans, cannellini beans, navy beans, pinto beans, aduki beans, mung beans. There are all kinds of different beans and legumes. Lentils are considered a legume, and peanuts technically are considered a legume, but we often lump them in with the nuts and seeds because they have a higher fat content than the other beans and legumes. So that's another kind of whole food that you can eat. And again, you're looking for the whole food and then you cook it. You can get them canned as well. If you get canned beans, just make sure to look for a can that doesn't have salt added, that has a BPA-free lining. BPA is that plastic that can be toxic. And as much as possible, if you can find a brand that uses kombu, which is a sea vegetable that helps digest and adds minerals to the beans, then look for that. Eden Organic is one company that I know of that does all of those things. So that's what I always buy. They're the only ones I see in the store that have all of those things going on for them. Okay, so vegetables, fruit, grains, beans, and then nuts and seeds are the other category of whole food. You can get different kinds of nuts, of course. I've got some almonds here. and some sunflower seeds. So when you're looking for nuts and seeds, go for the whole ones, and you also want to look to make sure that they're either raw or dry roasted. If you get roasted nuts and seeds, they're often done with oil, and the oil is often highly refined like canola oil. And that can bring toxins to your diet without you even realizing it. It's just around the nut. So you might be thinking, well, it's just a nut. But look for dry roasted or raw. And then nut and seed butters, so things like peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, they're starting to get into all kinds of different nut and seed butters, which is awesome because it gives you more variety and more choice. So personally, I like sunflower seed butter. I find the nice neutral taste very versatile and nutritious because it's got lots of zinc and other important vitamins and minerals. And just like if you're thinking about a smoothie with fruit, nut and seed butters have been processed because they've been ground up. So they just take the whole almond and they grind it up. If you look for a good kind of nut or seed butter, it'll only have the nut or seed as the ingredient list. So if I look at this one, it says ingredients, dry roasted organic sunflower seeds. That's what you want to look for. And again, dry roasted, so that it's not done with oil. A lot of nut and seed butters will add oil, sugar, and salt. So try to look for ones that don't have that and you'll still be doing really well. I consider nut and seed butters, when they're just the plain nut or seed ground up, I consider that to be a whole food because nothing's been taken out, nothing's been added. It's just that the nuts have been changed in their form. If you can't find a good brand, by the way, you can just make your own. You can grind it up in a coffee grinder, or if you have a Vitamix or a Blend Tech, they can make nut or seed butters, no problemo. Okay, so that's it. That is whole foods. Now, I'm not saying that 100% of your diet always has to be whole foods, but the vast majority should be. And you should always strive when you can to eat whole foods over processed forms. But I mean, I eat things that aren't whole foods sometimes, like maple syrup, molasses, stuff like that. You know, you don't have to be 100% in order to be healthy. You just want to be aware when you're not eating whole foods that it's not quite the greatest. I mean, you don't want to get super stressed because stress itself is unhealthy. But then again, you don't want to use stress as a cop-out to not eat whole foods and be like, oh, well, Heather told me not to be stressed, so I'm not going to bother worrying about it. You definitely want to strive to do better, and change is always going to cause stress. But put your effort where you're going to get the maximum reward. So if you work to have, 80% of your diet be just these foods, just whole healthy plant foods, you're doing pretty well. And then the other 20%, if you're going out with friends or you're going on a date or something like that, you don't have to be crazy strict with yourself as long as you have most of your diet being fresh, healthy, whole foods. So that's what I wanted to say. I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, leave them below. And that's it.